Welcome to the Good Place Marionville Podcast, dedicated to highlighting the good going on right here in Marionville, Missouri.
Today's episode will continue our commitment to showcase the goodness in Marionville, uniting our community through shared stories of hope and optimism. So let's cover some good this week.
All right, city updates, Martha.
Well, yeah, so last week we failed to share some of the items from the city alderman meeting. So I wanted to highlight those right now. There's been an empty position in Ward 2 for an alderman, and it was filled by Sue Motley, and it was really neat to see her be sworn in for her first meeting.
Super grateful for you, Sue. Thank you so much. And just remember that all the minutes from the last meetings are always posted on the city website. They talked about, did they talk about the white squirrel, the unveiling of the white squirrel? I don't think they talked about it, but just keep in mind that at Applefest, a 7-foot high white squirrel statue carved out of wood from right here in Missouri will be unveiled at Applefest. Where will it be permanently placed? That was talked about, but nothing been decided yet. I think one of the other things that was great, they talked about the fact that the new road is done out to Highway 14. The box culvert was completed, the road's been paved, and you can actually start using it now.
Very exciting.
It is good. What was there anything else good for the meeting? Just a lot.
Well, lots of good stuff is happening, but I think, the minutes really cover it. And we just want to encourage people to get involved. Come to the city meetings. It's actually quite interesting, and we would love to see you there.
Yeah. More news on the Economic Development Committee that's being formed. It's still moving forward. Great stuff going on here. Okay. In the first responder world, you may have seen a new red F-150 crew cab running around town. Pretty soon, supposed to come in this next Tuesday, a new topper on it with a big rear door so that the bed can come out with all the medical supplies. That will become our medical truck. And then the old green Expedition will go the way of the buy and buy.
So we're always going to have to just know to look for an F-150, or is it going to say something on it?
It's going to say, oh no, it's going to get all lettered up and everything. It'll be great.
Excellent.
And just a first responder, from my heart, first responder, because I'm a volunteer in the fire department. When there's a wreck and you're driving through a zone where there's been a car wreck, would you please put down your cell phone? As I was directing traffic out on Highway 60 for about an hour during rush hour last week, I was surprised how many people were still doing the regular speed limit and talking on their cell phones when there's 4 cars on the side smashed up. There's fire trucks around, there's ambulances around, and people are talking on their cell phone in their hands.
Which is already illegal.
Yeah, please don't.
Pay attention. Just to remember.
That's not a bad thing. The good news is we've got phenomenal firefighters in this town, first responders, EMTs. We could use you to join our team. Go to City Hall, get an application. Your age, you just have to be 18 and older. Please, we could use your help just to cover the hours that we do, because everybody's a volunteer and we're working on trying to make it even more exciting as a firefighter. Okay, yesterday we attended the ribbon cutting for the new kid in town, Storehouse Bakery. They're open for business. Yesterday was their official grand opening. And what a great representation of fire department, police department, city officials, residents. Their store hours are the drive-through 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. The lobby opens at 8 a.m. And inside the lobby, you'll find a beautiful showcase of baked goodies.
Oh,
their cookies are about a half a pound a piece. And Martha fell in love with their oatmeal raisin cookies. I
don't know. Oatmeal raisin and peanut butter were both quite good.
Really, really good. They also have smoothies. They have coffee drinks. They have
ice cream.
They have a whole bunch of stuff in there. Check it out. Go see them this weekend. It's in the old Dairy Queen.
So good news is, well, first of all, the ribbon cutting itself was put together by the people from Marionville Pride Facebook page. So I'm so grateful for them making it happen. You can see the pictures online. But I just wanted to say, I drove by this morning and there were plenty of cars in the drive-through and in the parking lot. So good job, everybody. Keep them going, encourage them, welcome them, just say, well, if you have to take one for the team, get a bunch of coffees, take them to your office.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. They did a beautiful job inside and outside of that building. Absolutely looks spectacular.
In our sponsor highlight, I just want to give a big, huge shout out to the Bank of Billings for being the sponsor of this podcast, the Good Place Marionville. The Bank of Billings core values, I thought this was really good to know, include customer first, passion for service, and commitment to community, which we see that all the time with the things that are happening here in town and their support and their encouragement. But these core values have enabled them to be in business since 1889. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
In town, It's really hard to rent just an office. Maybe you're working from home and you'd like to just get out of your living room or maybe out of your bedroom. At Central Place, downtown Marionville, we've got an office for rent. And if you or someone you know can choose where they work but don't want to work at their kitchen table anymore, let them know we have an office for rent. Have them check us out on Facebook or send us an email at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com or just stop by at 22 East Washington, downtown. Yeah. Martha.
So good.
How come I got this one? Okay. We just recently learned about Marionville Good Neighbor Week. Oh, no, it wasn't Marionville. Well, it will be Missouri Good Neighbor Week, which was signed into law in 2022. You can check out more about it at MissouriGoodNeighborWeek.com. September 28th through October 4th, right after Applefest, is Missouri Good Neighbor Week. We would love to see Marionville wrap its arms around this idea. All of our churches, all of our community groups, our schools, everybody wrap their arms around it and practice being a good neighbor that week, where we encourage all of our citizens of Missouri and especially Marionville to participate in events and activities and establish, most importantly, connections with your neighbors.
You know, I was thinking about this, and it could be things like a neighborhood potluck, which we actually tried to do last year in our neighborhood, and then it got rained out. Games in the park, movie in the park. You know, we just got to get our juices flowing and think about the different ways that we can be neighborly. And I would love for somebody to message me and say, I want to take this on for our town, because there is some ways that we can communicate with the organized effort of it as well.
Maybe a Marionville potluck down at the park.
Well, but the thing is it's really encouraging neighborhoods.
Okay,
so we need people to spearhead. What can I do with my neighbors that maybe I don't see very often because we have different work schedules, but everybody can share a watermelon, right? Everybody can get together.
It'll be the end of September. Everybody can share pumpkin seeds.
Okay, pumpkins.
Okay.
Pumpkin carving actually would be a really fun thing. So I also want to highlight, somebody on Facebook commented for good news that the weather has been amazing. I know you all, might take it for granted when the gauge goes down just a little bit, but that was very unusual to be in the 80s in July. So
the 70s and the 60s in the morning.
It was great. So there were people out walking and enjoying the good weather. So that is really good news.
And nobody to thank but God for that one.
There you go.
Hey, Applefest is around the corner, coming up the 20th and 21st of September. It's going to be great. Remember last year after the parade, 2,000 people downtown, vendors. There's so many ways to get involved. We could use your volunteership. That's right.
Volunteership.
Help with the parade. Help with organizing vendors, running garbage around, collecting garbage. Volunteers are needed of all kinds, and there's going to be lots of contests. I know the fire department is going to be doing a raffle on a giveaway. Wait to hear more details about that in the future Good Place Marionville podcast.
You know, I mentioned this last week, but we have new cards to help people be able to share the good news that they hear around town and get it to us for the weekly podcast. So make a comment in the show notes and I will connect with you to get you some of those cards. So, you know, next I want to share in the nonprofit news, huge shout out to Marionville Assembly of God, because next Monday night, July 29th, they are hosting a Meet the Candidate night from 6 to 8 p.m. And this is a night with 5 different candidates entitled God, Family, Missouri. So I want to thank Pastor Jim Gerhold for going out on a limb and opening the doors of his church for this opportunity. And they're also every Sunday night at 5:30 between now and the elections. Their doors are going to be open for what they're calling the Prayer Warrior Hour of Prayer, a time to join together and pray for our nation. So, you know, a lot of people think, Jim, that, a church shouldn't get involved in any of this conversation, but that's actually not true. And I'd love for you to just spend a minute commenting on that, because a lot of people get very confused about church and state, in a sense. And then I want you to tell people also about Faith Wins.
Well, I think it's really important that you read Thomas Jefferson's letter that he wrote to the Danbury Baptist Association back in the early 1800s about the separation of church and state. We all need to understand. Just take a moment. Be quiet for a second. Understand that Thomas Jefferson was writing about the fact that he wanted to protect the church from the state, not the state from the church, because the state, our government, was completely infiltrated with believers, with biblical principles, because that's what our country was founded on. And just recently, in the last 4 years, I've been helping co-host a podcast called the Faith Wins Podcast, which talks about the fact that local churches can get involved in nonpartisan voter registrations right on their premises, that is a legal thing that they can do, because we all need to be participating in voting. This is not a partisan podcast either. We would just love for you to vote your values, but get registered to vote. And if you're running a church, consider having a nonpartisan voter registration this fall before the major election coming up in November.
Because essentially what they're doing is giving people that opportunity to get registered instead of making the effort to try to go and find or get the documents and all that kind of stuff. It's just, let's make it easy, get it because you can't vote if you're not registered. It's as simple as that. So making that first step is something that a church can do and helping people get registered.
Yes.
So I appreciate that, because I just think a lot of people need to hear that perspective. And just go listen, meet the candidates is exactly that. Hear their heart, hear what they're having to say and how they want to represent the people of Missouri.
Hey, next up, Kathy Urschel is going to be joining the Good Place Marionville podcast. She's an alderman on our city council, our city alderman board from Ward 2. And we're so excited for her to be joining us today. Hey, we've got Kathy Urschel here with us today from the City Board of Aldermen. She represents Ward 2, and we're just so happy to have her here on the Good Place Marionville podcast. Kathy, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so how long have you lived in Marionville?
We've actually lived here 24 years. We purchased a home a year before we moved here and took a year to fix it up, and then we moved here, and our daughter did her senior year here.
Wow. So speaking of daughter, tell us a little bit about your family, because, maybe the people that have known you for 24 years know, but us newbies, we want to know. Tell us about your family.
I just have one daughter. Her name is Candace Lorenko, and she's going to kill me. 41 years old.
You don't have to tell her age.
Why not?
Hey, share it all.
She's not here to defend herself. That's right.
And she's married to a wonderful man, and they have two beautiful sons. Cruiser's going to be 13 next month, and Cash is going to be 11 in November.
Wow. And they live close by still?
Springfield.
In Springfield.
Mhm.
Excellent.
All right, so you currently serve as an alderman from Marionville. How long have you been doing that, and why did you decide to serve on our council?
I've been doing it. It was a 1-year term, and that expires next year. And I just decided to do it. I had retired from City Hall, and I just wanted to stay involved with the city. I love Marionville, and I wanted to do whatever I could to help promote it, help the town grow, whatever I could to serve the people.
Well, wait a minute. We've been going to city council meetings all year long. So this is like your first year you've been on,
Yes.
and you're going off.
Well, my term, I was filling a seat.
Okay. All right.
So
Excellent. So you just said something I didn't know, that you
That's
worked
right.
at City Hall. So what was your role there?
I was deputy clerk, city collector, what Amy does,
Excellent. How long did you do that?
15 years.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
So you did really get to know the city during
Yes.
that time.
Yes.
That's awesome. That you
Yes,
do
and
some-
I absolutely loved it, and I loved working with the people.
Well, and we all now the rumors have made it around town now that Debbie Bateman is going to be retiring on January the 3rd after 18 plus years of service to the city of Marionville, and an opportunity there for somebody that loves our city and wants to become the clerk in Marionville should apply for a job at City Hall.
That's so good. So as you are now on the Board of Aldermen, what is something that you're hoping to accomplish?
Because I want to know, are you going to run for re-election? I mean, because the elections are coming up in November again, right? Or next
Would
spring?
like to if
Okay.
things allow, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No pressure while you're here on air, sharing it all. Jim
All
did
campaign donations.
Jim did ask a question like that to one time to a political person that we were interviewing for personal reasons. And after we got done, he was like, I just shared something my family doesn't know. We need to change this. So it's pretty funny.
Aw.
We do sometimes ask questions, but we're so grateful for your service there. So what is something that you hope to see accomplished while you are in that position?
I would like to see our town grow a little bit. I would like to see it flourish, more people move here. I would like to see progress as far as things being cleaned up, homes being there's a lot of homes being flipped and whatnot. I
Fixed and flipped. That's the
Fixed
cool
and
part.
flipped. There we
Fixed and
go.
flipped. I mean, that's the great part is it's fixed and flipped.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so good. So you have so many, you kind of are sharing a lot of your own goals through a Facebook page called Marionville Pride.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about why you created that. And, I know that you're not alone in that effort. And what kind of results are you seeing from having that page?
Sure. I actually did not create that page. It was created about 5 years ago by a girl in town, Melissa Freeman. You probably know her.
Melissa Freeman.
Yes.
Hey, Melissa.
Wonderful. And a few years ago, a couple years ago, 3 probably, she just didn't want to do it anymore, and she turned it over to me. And last year, I decided to come up with a little program to kind of encourage people to fix up their homes, Marionville Pride, Curb Appeal, and where people can nominate somebody else's yard, for whether it's, the grass being kept nice, the plantings, they've painted the house, they've fixed up the house, just to encourage people to take pride in the community.
And what kind of results have you seen from that?
Yeah.
Wonderful results. For the most part, everybody's excited about it. There's been some that have really been encouraged. There was one lady last year that when she heard about it, she went out and she bought a few plants and whatever, and somebody nominated her house. And she was just so excited to have that recognition because they were a new family here in town. And so it was something that made them feel more welcome and a little bit of pride there.
It's amazing what just a couple of plants and some flowers and a little bit of landscaping can do to the front of a house.
Exactly.
And a little bit of motivation. I love your, whether you meant it to be a marketing thing or, just that encouragement for people to say, you know what, if they can clean up their yard a little bit and get maybe nominated, maybe I can too. And I feel like I've seen this be contagious.
I have, yes.
Or we're noticing it more, just that people are getting out and they're working at making their home more appealing. And so I just say kudos. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for all the people that have been nominating, because it takes somebody to nominate.
Exactly.
And then those that have gotten it and then won, and the sponsors behind it and everything is just a great effort. And, just something that is purely for the good of the town. And so I just love it. We promote it on this podcast, and you're doing a great job with that.
Well, thank you. I don't do it alone.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
give a shout out to all your team.
My team is Barbara Brown Neely.
Famous photographer, right?
Yes, she is famous, a wonderful photographer. I always say she's the brains behind it. She does all the photography work. She, just captures it just so perfectly. And she's also great with the computer and everything. So I'm so happy to be doing this with her and made a new friendship in town with her. And
that's awesome.
So this is a little off script, but if anybody out there listening has connections to the local Sherwin-Williams store in Springfield, maybe we can get a hold of somebody.
There's one in
Monette. Either one. Where we could get one of them to sponsor a building every month downtown, give us the paint. We'll tell everybody it's from Sherwin-Williams to help spruce up some of these buildings downtown.
Or some other paint company.
But, ask Sherwin-Williams. That's what they say. Ask Sherwin-Williams. Okay. Kathy, before we're done, you're such a great encourager, and you're always smiling. I know you're a little nervous. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you a question I told you I wouldn't ask. No, I'm just kidding. How would you like to encourage the citizens of Marionville today that are listening to the Good Place Marionville podcast that just want to hear from their alderman, because most of them have never come to a city council meeting? What would you like to say today? How would you like to encourage them?
I would love to try to get them to come to the meetings, know more about what is going on in their town, contact the alderman. They can go through City Hall to get our emails or whatnot. Some of us make our phone numbers public, but we're all there to serve. And I think the more people would get involved and know what's going on in their community, the more they'd appreciate things and, help make things happen.
Yeah.
It's about community. It's not just about, the council or one particular group. It's about the whole community.
And don't forget, we got that Be a Great Neighbor week coming up at the end of September. We'll talk more about that on the next Good Place Marionville podcast. Go ahead, Martha.
Jim, we have a few more items that we wanted to cover that came in on our Facebook just as we were getting ready to do the show. So I want to put them out there right now. One of them is that Doris Rapp got interviewed yesterday on KY3 covering a story about our white squirrels. And it's going to air someday in the near future, which we will share once we know what it is, on the 3 p.m. show that's called The Place. So this is just pretty exciting. We're getting some recognition. Of course, we love our white squirrels and all that they entail. So that is good news. Entail.
Wow,
I didn't even mean to do
Martha.
that.
All right. Now, Pat Telios Reagan shared that so many American flags are flying around town. And Kathy, you did a little tour around town recently highlighting that as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
That's fantastic.
I was surprised at how many there were.
It's great. And it
Fly
looks
your
so
colors.
good.
Absolutely. Fly
Yes.
your colors. Love that.
And lastly, I just want to give a shout out to Valerie Robbins. She mentioned that the new road between Odell and 14 is now open.
I rode on it today.
You
It's
did?
very smooth.
I almost did just to say that I did.
There were
but I-
golfers on a golf cart on there looking at the ditches and everything, but we drove around them.
They did a lot of work to get that done, and they're still tweaking a few things. There's some cones up, but it's open. So that the railroad, all the people, thank you. You've done a great job.
Yeah, it was great. Hey, it's time to wrap up today's episode of the Good Place Marionville podcast. As you can tell, this is a great platform for you to highlight your local business while showing the support for the good happening here in our awesome town. Consider becoming a sponsor by contacting us at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com. There are so many different sponsorship platforms that you can choose from. We'd love to have your support so we could do an even better job covering what's going on right here in Marionville.
And I just want to give a thank you to everyone that contributed good news for this week's episode. It does take an army of reporters to keep up with all the good that is happening here in Marionville. So anytime you hear good news, just shoot me an email at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com or call the number on the side of Central Place, which is 417-677-8167.
Thank you for joining us for the Good Place Marionville podcast. Keep your eyes out for the good, and together we can celebrate Marionville.